of the victim of these crimes is. I don't know if Keir Starmer prefers men or women, and I don't care. I don't care whether he's a top or a bottom.
How on earth can these three men, two aspiring young models with links to Ukraine, be arrested for potential terrorism and charged, and yet there is a media blackout? No one's talking about it. No one's asked the Prime Minister about it. It's astonishing. What are they trying to hide? Why is the mainstream media so determined to cover up for Slippery Starmer, our corrupt and captured Prime Minister? Now, as you know, I'm one of the only people alongside Paul Staines of Guido Fawkes that has had the balls to talk about Keir Starmer's own cover-up of his secret family, his own cover-up of his marriage difficulties, and the fact that Lady Victoria Starmer is incredibly unhappy, something which I think is hugely relevant given he is the Prime Minister, very often trying to invoke his family life for political causes. But now we have the UK's contempt of court laws being used again to cover up the most extraordinary case involving the firebombing of a number of Starmer addresses. Here are the men who have now been arrested and charged with these crimes. There's Roman Lerevich, 21-year-old Ukrainian, charged with 3 counts of arson with intent to endanger life. He is accused of setting fires at Starmer's former family home in Kentish Town on the 12th of May, a previous residence in Islington on the 11th of May, and a Toyota RAV4 vehicle linked to Starmer on the 8th of May. He was arrested shortly after the incidents and is currently in custody, scheduled to appear at the Old Bailey on June the 6th for a plea and trial preparation hearing. Then there's Stanislav Karpuch, the 26-year-old Romanian who was born in Ukraine, a business student at Canterbury Christchurch University who has worked part-time in construction but is an aspiring model and actor. His charges are conspiracy to commit arson with intent to endanger life. He was arrested at Luton Airport on May the 17th, allegedly attempting to flee the country. He appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court, was denied bail, and is remanded in custody, also scheduled to appear at the Old Bailey on June the 6th. And then there's also Petro Pokyanok. And there's only this court-drawn image of him, a 34-year-old Ukrainian, charged with conspiracy to commit arson with intent to endanger life. He was arrested in Chelsea, West London, on the 19th of May. He appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court and was remanded in custody. His case also scheduled to be heard at the Old Bailey on June the 6th. Now, David Atherton has some questions for Keir Starmer on this one. He said, writing directly to Keir Starmer, "May I ask how they knew this information in terms of all of the residencies? Your home in NW5 may be easy to locate, but a property from the 1990s? How did they know that from a year ago, that it was formerly once your car? Do you know of these gentlemen? Do you know these gentlemen? Have you communicated with them? Have you met them? Have you had intimate relations with them? Also, I have been told what Nick Brown was dismissed for in the Labour Party. Am I allowed to speculate on his actions?" George Galloway has also been on this story. Watch, and then we'll get reaction from Father Calvin Robinson.
Of the victim of these crimes is. I don't know if Keir Starmer prefers men or women, and I don't care. I don't care whether he's a top or a bottom.
Now, Father Calvin Robinson, can I be very abundantly clear on this?
Please do.
In my reporting of Keir Starmer's secret family and his marriage troubles, it has been women who have been involved. So I just want to be clear on that. I'm not going down the path of George Galloway in this case.
Usually best not to go down the path of George Galloway.
But he is good fun. He is good fun, you have to admit. But how on earth can these three men, two aspiring young models with links to Ukraine, be arrested for potential terrorism and charged, and yet there is a media blackout? No one's talking about it. No one's asked the Prime Minister about it. It's astonishing. What are they trying to hide? But first, if you're anything like me, you've spent so much time trying to find the perfect skincare treatments for your face, only to realise that you've been neglecting the skin on your neck. But as I've got older, I've noticed that's a massive oversight. The neck is on display all the time, yet so many folk treat it as an afterthought in their routine, and I certainly fell into that trap. So many women in our outspoken audience will know that the skin on your neck is thinner, more delicate and less oily than facial skin, which means it requires specialized care. And that's why I was completely blown away by this product. When I received it, oh my goodness, I was so happy, because Go Pure Tighten and Lift Neck Cream, oh, it smells delicious. It looks beautiful. But most importantly, it is a product which is transforming the necks of women, and some men like me, I have to admit, all across the globe. It's such a gorgeous product. I saw noticeable difference within just weeks, and I know it can become a game changer for you too. Outspoken viewers and listeners get 25% off Go Pure using the code DAN at checkout. That's D-A-N, Dan. Just head to gopurebeauty.com/Dan, use code DAN, and you're all set. Now, Go Pure's proprietary firming complex is designed to visibly smooth and firm the neck on your skin and chest in as little as 4 to 8 weeks. In a consumer survey, 100% of users said their skin looked more supple, and 97% noticed a firmer appearance. Indeed, Go Pure's full line of science-backed skin and body care have delivered for over 100,000 real women with real results. It is dermatologist recommended and cruelty-free. Plus, with over 1 million jars sold, this beauty secret, well, it's no longer a secret, is it? You know about it now. So tighten, lift, and restore elasticity in your neck, because your skincare routine shouldn't just stop at the jawline. For a limited time, Outspoken viewers and listeners get 25% off Go Pure using the code DAN at checkout. Just head to gopurebeauty.com/Dan, use code DAN, and you're all set. And after you buy, do us a favor when they ask where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was after watching Outspoken. But now, back to the show.
It's very, very weird. Like whenever there's silence around something, you know, there's something going on that they don't want us to know. And if even the media don't want to report on this and ask questions on this, then it suggests that it's something that implicates the Prime Minister, because the media are in his back pocket, unfortunately, as we just discussed in the last story. So what does that mean? It means something personal is probably happening. There's probably a connection there. I don't know what the connection is between the Ukrainians and or young male models, but there's certainly something going on there with our Prime Minister Keir Starmer that the media don't want to get out because it will compromise his position as Prime Minister.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, Calvin, we have to have a serious discussion in this country about the way that the mainstream media and the deep state establishment are using contempt of court regulations to try and silence conversation, which is so clearly in the national interest, Father Calvin. We saw it over Axel Rudakabana. And let me tell you, there's still no clarity. Everyone followed the rules because we were told that if not, you're going to be locked up. There's still no clarity about Axel Rudakabana, about the truth of his conversion to Islam, about the fact that he is a practicing Muslim behind bars at HMP Belmarsh, now trying to kill prison officers. And we still don't know about his parents and their connections. It's like, and that just gets pushed into the long grass because there might be an investigation about this. It's wrong that we so often are limited from talking about stories clearly in the national interest because we are told that we could be locked up for breaking contempt of court laws. We've seen it with the Tommy Robinson case as well. Oh, you cannot talk about that now because it's subjected to a hearing. I'm sick of it. because it means
It-
there are
it is a
so many
tool.
cover-ups.
It's a tool that they use. I came up against this a lot at GB News, actually. Whenever there was an active story that I wanted to cover, the liberals within the organization would say, we can't address that because it's a live legal case and therefore we're at risk of contempt of court, risk of that and the other. It's something that they use to shut us down, to stop us from talking about things that we see as important. And actually, it's not always contempt of court. It's not always at risk at all. It's just a weapon that legal teams and liberals will use. But I think the whole legal system, in terms of the contempt of court regulations, need adjusting. Absolutely, if things are in the national interest, in the public interest, they should be discussed because there's no hiding it. People are having these conversations on social media. It's just not being reported properly by professional journalists. And actually, they're the people that you should want reporting on these matters. And so, if it's a case of well, we don't want the jury to be swayed or the judge to be swayed by this, they have all the same information that we have, right? So they're seeing all the same stuff that we're seeing on social media. They're just not getting clear, verified, investigated reporting from professional journalists. I think we should have more of that, actually. I'm not a fan of the mainstream media because they're not acting as professional journalists at the moment. But I would like to see journalists being professional again and reporting on these things and not being afraid of being silenced by the establishment, whether it's contempt of court or any other legalism that they use to shut us down.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the problem, though, Father Calvin, that we've seen what's happened to Tommy Robinson? And, for example, in my case, I know that there are so many ways that its smallest breach of contempt of court, they could lock me up. And of course, as soon as you're locked up, you're not able to do the most important job, which is actually trying to change the national conversation. Now, look, you've obviously decided to flee to the US to deal with that. There's lots of people, Father Calvin, including people very close to him, who are saying that Tommy Robinson needs to seriously consider seeking political asylum under Donald Trump, because otherwise he's going to be caught up with constant and consistent lawfare because they just want to take him out of the game forever.
100%. And they already saw this coming. They've put hurdles in his way. He can't even come to the US at the moment. So he needs to work through that process before he can even attempt to seek asylum. But, our mutual friend Winston Marshall sat there in the White House and said to the president's press secretary, would you consider allowing people to seek asylum from the UK if they're persecuted for lack of free speech? And I remember Leviat said, I hadn't heard that before, I'll pass that to the president. So we know this conversation is being had now, that it's that serious, that there's a lack of free speech in the UK, that the president of the US is considering allowing refugees from Britain to come on over. It's sad and it's funny at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely astonishing, isn't it, in so many ways. But Father Calvin Robinson, I just think what is so despicable is the way that the mainstream media is working in lockstep, absolute lockstep with the political establishment to completely shut down any of these types of conversations. So yesterday, the biggest story in Britain, absolutely the biggest story in Britain, dominating on X, leading on my show, was the outrage, the absolute outrage from all across the globe about Lucy Connolly remaining behind bars. Do you know, and I do this for you guys, so you don't have to do it. I sat through every minute of the British Bashing Corporation's flagship 10 p.m. bulletin, every minute of Woke ITV's 10 p.m. flagship bulletin. Father Calvin, not a word. Not a word about Lucy Connolly, and also not a word about Tommy Robinson, because, of course, yesterday the news on Tommy Robinson was good. It was positive. It was the fact that he was going to be freed. Now, mark my words, Tommy Robinson, now that there's bad news, now that there's this harassment charge against 2 journalists, it will be all over the mainstream media. So this is the problem. You cannot trust the mainstream media to deliver the truth. They simply now are delivering a political message every single day.
And what excuse can they use at this point? To discuss the Tommy Robinson news, the good news before the bad news. There was no contempt of court around that. There's no legal reason not to discuss it. It's purely biased. It's purely political at that point, and it's transparent. So anyone that knows the news, because they will have gathered it from independent media and or social media, will know that the mainstream media is covering it up. They'll know that they are peddling their own narrative and not talking about things that are in the public interest. So the more they do this with the BBC and ITV and Sly, the more they do this, the more people will see that they are not on their side.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go wherever you are.